So, like, jumping off from that, how can you tell us? Can you tell us a little bit about your own your research and investigation into the character, and what you talked about with Stephanie and how she responded to your take on Marcus?
I read everything I could about what she had already said, everything that I could find, quotes, because I had no idea that she was going to be on set.
Oh, really? You didn't know?
No, but when I was doing my research, I had no idea. Yeah, it was when I arrived on set.
So that was like a little gift.
It was like a huge gift.
The best resource possible.
A huge gift, because you never know. You have to make assumptions. And sometimes, this is the thing when you read a book, again, it's sometimes, again, why does everyone have a different idea in their head? Because they're reading it from a different perspective. Right. So, of course, my perspective could be just as warped as everyone else's, because it's, it's everything that I've lived with, and all my history is coming into that. So it was great to check in and say, okay, this is what I read into it. This is what I read. Is that what you wrote?
Right.
And some of the things you said, well, I didn't think about that. Yeah, absolutely. And so it was one of those wonderful things to have her go, I didn't think of it. Yes, it's exactly, yes, he would have done that. Yes. So it was fun to play with her in that way. And so together we discovered things that she may or may not have already really thought about.
Like the falling out of bed, tossing on your slippers in your robe.
Well, the desire to be there, right? I mean, Chelsea she's able to change his alliance so that his allegiance towards the Volturi is going to stay strong, even though he wanted to leave all those 1,000-odd years ago. His allegiance with the Volturi is very strong. Does he always believe what his fellows are, the decisions that his fellows are making? The rest of the triumvirate. Does he believe in the choices they're making? Not always. But he believes in the Volturi. And that I think is the fun thing for me to play in Marcus, is to not always agree.
The duality.
Yeah, not always agree with how things are being run, but to choose his battles. When is he going to speak up? When is it necessary to say, guys, you're going too far, we need to move on? And that's the fun thing of when he speaks in New Moon, and perhaps when he speaks in Breaking Dawn. Those will be the reasons why. He's always just sanding off the hard edges of his eager compatriots that are sometimes there. And the cool thing that kind of backfires for Arrow, which I think is really cool, is that I would say, again, this is just my interpretation, I'm sure Michael would disagree with me, but I think that Arrow sometimes, and Caius as well, they tend to go from a purely personal perspective. And what backfires with Arrow forcing Marcus to stay is that Chelsea is not able to give someone an allegiance to a person. She can't make anyone love anybody. She can't make anyone respect anybody. But she can make an allegiance to a cause, to a group. So she gives him much more. She has this incredibly strong allegiance to the ideals of the Volturi, to what the Volturi stand for, the reason the Volturi have been respectable for so many years. And Arrow and Caius sometimes bring that to question, because they don't want, like a president or a king or a dictator, years in, and they're starting to lose power, and they become a little bit desperate, and their ideals come into question. I'm reading a Cormac McCarthy book right now, The Road, which has come out on film. I haven't seen the film, but it always comes into question: how are you going to survive? What will you do in order to survive? Will you become one of the bad guys? Will you do morally questionable things or morally degraded things? And this is I think what Marcus represents in that little group. Is he represents the guy who keeps them on the right road.
Now, we've heard a lot of the cast members say that they don't actually think the Volturi are the bad guys. They're just doing what vampires do naturally. So it's interesting to hear you question it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I
From
don't
Marcus's point
think
of view.
the Volturi, because the Volturi is a clan, right? The Volturi are
Right.
a ruling clan. So from Marcus's point of view, no, the Volturi are not bad. Someone has to rule.
Someone has to set the rules.
Absolutely. Otherwise, it would be a free-for-all.
Somebody's got to be in place.
Absolutely. But it's a huge responsibility, because they're the judges. They are the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court. I mean, what an awful thing if the Supreme Court is corrupt. It leaves you speechless.
Yeah.
What's the point? So they are the Supreme Court. At least the triumvirate is the Supreme Court. And people like Charlie's character and Daniel and Dakota and Cameron, they are the police. So it's necessary that the Supreme Court be just. And sometimes, like I was saying before, the Supreme Court is
A little twisted.
yeah, they have their own political agenda, and the thing that backfires is that Marcus that's not what he's interested in. He's interested in the group as a whole, just keeping the eye on the prize and focused on the just.
That is
the just
fantastic.
decisions.
Did you talk to Michael Sheen and Jamie Campbell Bower about those kinds of things beforehand, or is this just the world according to Christopher Heyerdahl?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because how things come about. These are the things that are not necessary to talk about, because you discover it as you go. These are things that I didn't think about it, all of this stuff beforehand. I did all the research I could, and then how each thing is going to play out. Mm-hmm. It happens as soon as you walk in. That's that you. For me, you do all your research. Yeah, you do all your research. But ultimately, you're not a one-man show. That's not what the game is. The game is to that I can have an idea about talking to you. We met backstage. We have a first impression, and then now, how is this interview going to go? How are we going to talk about? How are we going to relate to each other? You can't plan for that. It's just whatever happens between us now. So yeah, so the same thing happens when you're acting with someone. So you have all these ideas. How are they going to play the role? Who is Caius going to be? Who is Aro going to be? You won't know until you meet Aro and Caius. It's not Michael and Jamie, but they're going to bring themselves to it. You have to wait until you see what they're going to do on the day. How are they going to react? How are they going to react to what you do or what you don't do? And so that's the fun. That's the danger. You never know what somebody's going to do. And so these things were discovered while we were playing. We got to play together for 2 weeks. So these things were all discovered on the go. And that's the
fun of it.
That's the huge fun of it. Yeah.
So in a lot of your work, you wear lots of prosthetics and heavy makeup. How did sometimes, yeah. So I'm thinking of from SG, from Stargate Atlantis.
Yeah, Todd.
Todd had lots of prosthetics.
He loves his makeup. lots of makeup on. No, I'm not ready. 4 hours left.
I saw some footage at another convention, somebody talking about you walking around like eating lunch with the Todd makeup on, and how funny that was. So how does the makeup...
Just trying to see me eat with the Todd makeup on. It's very delicate. You wouldn't think Todd would be so delicate. He's trying to get it past, all the bits and pieces.
So how did the makeup experience for Twilight with like the red contacts and the wig? And,
it was easy.
That was easy?
That was easy.
Because so many people have complained about the contacts or...
Yeah, well, I think people will complain about anything, but again, it's your perspective. For someone who has lived through 4 hours of prosthetics, I can't complain because other people have lived through 8 hours of prosthetics. Mm-hmm. And I think of, I'm going to forget his name now, of course. Anyway, I've met a couple of people who have done huge prosthetics, and so 4 hours to them is a joke. So yeah, put on a little bit of a few sparkles and red contacts. It's like a Friday night, love.
Lori.
Is there anything else that you want to say to the Twilight fandom before we wrap up?
You're all mad.